Most people grow up believing work is something you endure, a burden passed down from the fall, a punishment for humanity's mistake. You hear it everywhere. If Adam had not sinned, we would not be suffering like this. Work becomes the enemy, something to escape, something to avoid if you ever become spiritual enough. You see the result of this belief every day. Young men waiting for miracles while ignoring skill. Families praying for breakthroughs while refusing discipline. Talented people abandoning their professions because someone told them God will provide. And entire communities treating business as a distraction rather than a responsibility. The idea is so common that it feels true. Work equals suffering. Work equals survival. Work equals stress. But what if the story we were told is only half the picture? What if the earliest chapter of the Bible shows something very different? What if work was never the curse? What if it was a gift? When you step into the beginning of the Bible, the story takes a surprising turn. You do not meet a God resting on a throne. You meet a God creating, a God shaping, a God organizing. The introduction is not a sermon, it is activity, purpose, intention. And when humanity enters that story, the first thing given to man is not comfort. It is responsibility, a garden to manage, a space to cultivate, a world that requires attention. You discover that work did not arrive after the fall. It was already part of a perfect world. This opening sets the stage for everything we explore today. If work existed before pain, before sin, before struggle, then our entire idea of work needs to be rebuilt. To understand the true place of work, you have to return to the beginning and look at the story without the assumptions many people carry. When the Bible describes creation, it does not present a God who suddenly snaps his fingers and steps back. It gives us a picture of a God who works with intention. You see movement, you see order, you see progression. Light appears, then separation. Water gathers, then land rises. Plants grow, then animals fill the space. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is random. Each phase sits on the one before it, almost like a builder laying a strong foundation before raising the rest of the structure. And at every stage, there is a pattern. God looks at his work and recognizes its quality. That simple pattern tells a story. Creation is not an act of raw power. It is work done with care. Then we arrive at the moment humanity steps into the world. God forms man and places him in a garden. Notice that word. A garden is not wild land. It is an organized environment, a place that demands vision, pruning, planting, planning, guarding, and improving. And before man says a single prayer, he receives work. Before he builds a family, he receives work. Before he makes a mistake, he receives work. The first gift is responsibility. Then comes another moment many people overlook. The story of naming the animals. God brings the creatures to Adam, but he does not tell him what to call any of them. Adam chooses. Adam decides. Adam creates meaning with his mind. That is creativity. That is initiative. That is original thought. Nothing about that scene suggests passivity. Nothing suggests waiting for something to fall from the sky. It paints the picture of a man trusted with influence from the very beginning. And this all happens before the fall, before struggle enters the human experience, before hardship becomes part of work, which means work itself is not the curse. Pain and work came later, but the purpose of work was already established. This is the foundation, a working God, a world formed through effort, a garden requiring stewardship, a man equipped with creativity and authority. The beginning of the Bible does not see work as suffering. It sees work as identity, as purpose, as part of what makes a human being reflect the nature of the one who created him. Many people read the story of Eden as a simple children's tale. A garden, a tree, a warning, a mistake, end of lesson. But when you slow down and look at it closely, something else appears. The story shifts from a quiet walk through paradise to the first real crisis of human identity. It becomes a moment where two humans discover that freedom is heavier than they expected. The story of the garden describes everything as complete, watered, ordered, fruitful, nothing missing. Yet even in this perfect world, there is one thing God makes sure Adam and Eve understand. They are free. The tree at the center of the garden is not a trap, it is a reminder. It tells them, your choices matter. This is the part that many overlook. Every relationship with real love requires trust. Not control, not force, trust. So the story of Eden presents a world where trust is tested, not by chaos, but by abundance. When everything is comfortable, the temptation is not that we live in hunger, but that we forget the source of the fullness we enjoy. The story says a voice enters the scene, not a monster, not a storm, but a quiet suggestion. A question that sounds harmless, a question that turns trust into doubt. Did God really say? It is subtle, and that subtlety matters. Most bad decisions in life do not come with warnings or loud alarms. They arrive softly. They offer small permission. They hint that boundaries are meant to be adjusted. And for the first time, Adam and Eve stand in a tension they never knew before. A tension between what they were told and what they now feel. The story of this moment is not about fruit. It is about the slow shift of the heart. A shift where obedience becomes inconvenience, where clarity becomes curiosity, where the Creator's voice becomes optional because another voice feels more convenient. And this is where the weight of freedom presses on the soul. Not in the choosing of good when everything feels clear, but in the choosing of trust when the alternative feels reasonable. The garden becomes a stage for a decision that every human would face one way or another. And long before the action takes place, the real battle is already happening internally. This is where the seed of the parable lies. Most failures begin long before they become visible. There is a moment in the story of Eden that feels almost quiet, the kind of quiet that comes right before something irreversible happens. The story of the garden tells us that Adam and Eve look at the tree again, but this time they see it differently. What was once a boundary now feels like an invitation. What was once clear now feels negotiable. The shift is important. Most people imagine the choice as a quick decision, but the story suggests a slower drift. A slow acceptance of a new idea, a quiet agreement formed in the heart before any action is taken. That is how real temptation usually works. It rarely pushes, it whispers, it does not force your hand, it shapes your reasoning. When Eve reaches for the fruit, the story is not describing a moment of rebellion. It is showing how trust has been replaced with self-reliance. The idea that I know what is best for me becomes louder than the voice of the one who made them. Adam follows, not because he is unaware, but because the weight of the choice has shifted from obedience to convenience. The moment they eat, the garden does not collapse. The sky does not darken. The animals do not scatter. The story leaves the physical world untouched. What changes is something far deeper. They notice themselves. They notice their vulnerability. They notice the absence of the peace they once carried so naturally. This part of the story is often misunderstood. Many imagine punishment arriving instantly. Instead, what arrives is awareness, a kind of inner alarm that signals something has shifted between them and the one who formed them. That inner feeling is the first consequence. The story is showing that the break in trust happens before any external judgment appears. This is where the human condition begins. The realization that actions echo inside us before they echo around us. The story of the garden is not warning us about a piece of fruit. It is showing how a single choice can introduce a kind of distance we did not expect. In this moment, the garden becomes a mirror. It asks every listener one quiet question. Have you ever chosen something that felt harmless, only to realize later that it cost you more internally than you expected? When God finally speaks in the story, something surprising happens. The tone is not the explosive anger many imagine. It begins with a question. It begins with presence. It begins with a search. Where are you? It is the kind of question a mentor asks when something has gone wrong, not to condemn, but to reveal what the person cannot yet say on their own. What follows is often misunderstood as a curse on work itself. Many people hear this part of the story and conclude that business, effort, and productivity are all part of humanity's punishment. But that is not what the story says. What God addresses is not the existence of work. It is the environment in which work will now exist. Before the fall, work came with harmony. The ground responded easily. Creativity carried clarity. Discipline felt natural. After the fall, the relationship between human effort and the world changes. The ground becomes resistant. Progress requires perseverance. Results demand consistency. Work is still sacred, but it now demands strategy. This shift mirrors real life. Every entrepreneur eventually discovers that ideas rarely bloom without friction. Systems break, markets fluctuate, people disappoint, and growth demands more from you than you expected. The story frames this reality not as punishment, but as the new terrain in which purpose will be lived out. Then comes one of the most overlooked parts of the entire chapter. God clothes Adam and Eve. He provides for them before sending them out. It is a quiet but powerful moment. The story suggests that even after failure, care remains, provision remains, purpose remains. They will not return to a garden, but they will enter a world where responsibility is still central. There is a reason this matters for anyone pursuing business today. The first human story does not end with collapse. It ends with a mandate. The world is harder now, but it is still yours to cultivate. Work has changed, but it has not lost its dignity. Failure has entered the picture, but so has resilience. This closing section reframes the entire narrative. The garden was not just a paradise that humanity lost. It was the first workplace, the first assignment, the first partnership between divine purpose and human action. And even after humanity stumbled, the story does not cancel that assignment, it expands it. The call to create, manage, and build remains. The world may resist you, but the mandate is still alive in you.